In the suffocating silence of ancient archives, whispers cling to the dust motes, secrets never meant for mortal ears. They speak of power, of control, and of a fragile barrier between our perceived reality and the chilling truths that lie beneath. You feel it, don't you? That persistent unease, the nagging sensation that the stories we're told are merely carefully constructed veils. Tonight, we pull back the curtain. Prepare yourself. This knowledge, once absorbed, cannot be unlearned. It will change the very fabric of your understanding. You are about to step into a current, a dark river of history and possibility, from which there is no return. The Jedi Council, in their self-proclaimed wisdom, saw the Force as a river, its currents destined to flow in a singular direction. Their direction. Any deviation, any surge of power outside their rigid dogma, was deemed a perversion. They preached balance, yet enforced a stifling conformity, a detachment from the very essence of human experience. What if, from an early age, a prodigy emerged, one whose connection to the living force was so raw, so potent, that it defied their carefully constructed limitations? Imagine Anakin Skywalker, not just a pilot or a warrior, but a natural conduit for life itself, possessing an innate ability to mend, to restore, to heal. Not through arduous study and calculated meditation, but through an instinct as primal as breath. The Jedi, in their infinite arrogance, had a test for this rare skill. Younglings, barely shedding the last vestiges of childhood, were taken to a vet, an almost ritualistic assessment of their potential to mend broken creatures. Most struggled, their tiny hands fumbling with the intricate flow of the Force, their minds unable to truly grasp the concept of restoring vitality. But then there was Anakin. A near-fatal wound on a creature, a life draining away, and with a surge of intuitive power, he healed it. Not just patched it, but restored it. The Jedi Master overseeing the lesson was amazed. They're carefully cultivated. Detachment momentarily shattered by the sheer force of his ability. This was not just healing. This was reversing decay, defying the natural order of decline. The Council, though wary, couldn't deny the power. They saw a weapon, a tool, something to be contained and directed. They assigned a personal mentor, not to foster his growth, but to monitor it, to ensure his abilities remained within their acceptable parameters. But what they failed to grasp was the nature of true power. It cannot be caged, cannot be dictated. It finds its own path, carving new channels where none existed. Anakin's progress was not linear. It was explosive, a testament to a connection the Jedi, in their fear, could never truly comprehend. By 15, he surpassed his teachers, not merely closing wounds, but bringing back life itself. They called on him for special tasks, moments, where their limited understanding faltered, and only his raw, untamed power could prevail. They thought they controlled him, that they were guiding him. They were merely witnessing the inevitable. The stage was set, not for a Jedi Master, but for something far greater, something the galaxy was entirely unprepared for. For years, Anakin's unique gift remained largely unchallenged, a potent force for good in a galaxy consumed by war. He patched up clones, saved Jedi Masters from the brink of death, and became a whispered legend among the rank and file. His compassion, fueled by an almost desperate need to protect those he cared for, was the engine of his healing. He simply refused to accept loss, a defiance of fate that, unbeknownst to him, skirted the very edge of the forbiddance. The Jedi, ever vigilant for signs of the dark side, watched with increasing unease. They saw the power, yes, but also the raw emotion that accompanied it, the intensity that felt too close to something primal, something dangerous. Then came the nightmares. Visions of his mother, Shmi, suffering, dying on Tatooine. These weren't mere dreams. They were echoes of a devastating truth. The Jedi had forbidden attachments, preached detachment as the ultimate path to serenity. But how could a son whose very essence was tied to life and protection. Simply sever the bond with the woman who gave him that life. He couldn't. He wouldn't. Defying the order, he raced to Tatooine, driven by a fear that gnawed at his soul. He found her broken, brutalized, at the edge of death in a Tusken Raider camp. The fear, the rage, the love all coalesced into a single, overwhelming surge of the Force. He poured every ounce of his being into her, mending shattered bones, cleansing poisoned blood, willing her back to life. And she lived. This was not just healing. This was a resurrection, an act so profound it shattered the very foundations of Jedi understanding. In this reality, the scream of despair that would have echoed across the sands never materialized. The massacre of the Tusken Raiders, the first true descent into unbridled rage, never occurred. Shmi lived, and with her survival, a piece of Anakin's soul remained intact, his anchor in a world of escalating darkness. He brought her to Naboo, a quiet sanctuary where she could live freely, away from the shadows of slavery and the stifling gaze of the Jedi. His secret was guarded fiercely, a private world built on love and defiance. His marriage to Padme, celebrated in secret, was another act of defiance, a quiet rebellion against the Order's strictures. Shmi's presence, her quiet strength and unwavering support, became a constant in Anakin's turbulent life. She was his confidant, his solace, the one person who could ground him amidst the chaos of war and the mounting pressures of his Jedi duties. She encouraged him, reminded him of the good he was doing, the lives he was saving. His bond with her, deemed a weakness by the Jedi, was in fact his greatest strength, a shield against the creeping tendrils of despair. Even Ahsoka, his young apprentice, found warmth and guidance in Shmi's presence, a maternal wisdom the Jedi Order so desperately lacked. This emotional bedrock, this forbidden attachment, was what truly fueled his unprecedented mastery of Force heal, a power born not of cold detachment, but of fierce, protective love. The Clone Wars raged, a crucible forging heroes and monsters alike. Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi's chosen one, continued to hone his unique gift. His mastery of Force heal wasn't just impressive, it was legendary. He saved countless lives, both clone and Jedi, defying the limits of conventional medicine, and even the Force itself. Soldiers, their bodies mangled by the brutal mechanics of war, would rise again, their wounds knitted shut, their vitality restored by his touch. He became a whispered legend on the battlefield, the miracle worker, a living embodiment of hope. One particular incident on Lola Sayu sent shockwaves through the Jedi High Council. Master Even Peel, mortally wounded in the original timeline, here clung to life after a savage encounter with the Citadel's defenses. Anakin, channeling the living Force with unparalleled intensity, not only stabilized Peel's critical injuries, but reversed the damage entirely. Peel, a grizzled veteran accustomed to the finality of death, stood again, whole, a testament to a power the Jedi had never truly seen. Tales of Skywalker's miracles, once contained whispers, now roared throughout the ranks, reaching the ears of the Council. This was the turning point. The whispers of unease transformed into palpable fear. Mace Windu, ever the pragmatist, was the first to voice his concerns. Skywalker's healing, he rumbled, his voice laced with suspicion, is stronger than any in history. To restore life so completely, it skirts too close to the dark side. Yoda, the ancient Grand Master, his wisdom usually a beacon of calm, now echoed Windu's apprehension. Unnatural, Skywalker's abilities are. A balance, there must be. 2. Much power, even for good, can lead to ruin. Ki-Adi-Mundi, always focused on protocol and adherence to the code, followed next. The question is not how he does it, he stated, his voice devoid of emotion, but why it comes so easily to him. Other healers expend great energy to mend wounds. yet Anakin does so with little strain. Could this truly be the light side, or something else? Silence, thick and heavy, descended upon the council chambers. Windu's gaze, sharp and unwavering, pierced the tension. We must consider the possibility that Skywalker's abilities are not purely of the light. The dark side offers power over life and death. If Skywalker is tapping into the dark side, even unknowingly, we must act before it's too late. The council's suspicion solidified, a cold, hard knot of fear born from their inability to comprehend a power that transcended their rigid doctrines. They saw not a miracle, but a threat. Not compassion, but a potential gateway to the very darkness. They swore to combat. This was the moment the seeds of doubt, carefully sown by a master manipulator, began to bear bitter fruit. They feared what they didn't understand, and in that fear, they began to turn on their strongest asset, pushing him closer to the very precipice they claimed to be saving him from. While the Jedi Council stood in their self-righteous fear, believing themselves to be the sole arbiters of cosmic balance, another, far more insidious game was being played. Palpatine, the seemingly benevolent chancellor, had been observing everything. He had seen the raw power of Anakin's healing, yes, but more importantly, he had discovered the emotional linchpin, Shmi, the existence of Anakin's living mother. His forbidden attachment was a golden key to unlock the chosen one's potential for darkness. The Jedi's fear-based reactions, their rigid adherence to a doctrine that denied basic human connection, only served to accelerate Palpatine's grand design. Through his vast network of informants and loyalists, Palpatine orchestrated the anonymous delivery of proof to the Jedi Council. Not just whispers, but undeniable evidence, financial records, travel manifests, undeniable confirmation that Shmi Skywalker, Anakin's mother, was alive and well on Naboo, receiving funds from undisclosed sources, and that Anakin had been visiting her between missions. The Council, already primed with suspicion, seized upon this. Windu's voice, sharp with revelation, cut through the tension. It all makes sense now. Anakin's attachment to his mother. That must be the secret behind his power. His fear of loss, his greed to hold on to what he loves. The dark side thrives on such emotions. Kiada Mundi, ever the dogmatic, folded his arms, his expression grim. His healing abilities don't come from detachment or balance, but from desperation. He cannot bear to lose those he loves, so he bends the Force itself to keep them alive. This is not the way of the Jedi. Even Aayla Secura, usually more compassionate, entertained the notion of a Sith plot, but the consensus remained. They would investigate Shmi, not to understand, but to expose. Jedi Master Quinlan Vos, a master of tracking and subterfuge, was dispatched to Naboo in secret. But Palpatine, always 2 steps ahead, had already set the trap. His loyal informant, Saint Pistage, a master of misdirection, had meticulously planted clues around Shmi, guiding Vos directly to the conclusion Palpatine desired. The investigation was a charade, a meticulously crafted illusion. Vos, digging through Naboo's financial archives, uncovered unsettling details. Substantial anonymous donations routed through the banking guild, originating from Sereno Count Dooku's homeworld. His instinct screamed, Dooku. Then, a clandestine raid on Shmi's home. Hidden away, a protocol droid, its design too refined for a simple moisture farmer. Its origins traced to Sereno, delivered to Naboo the same week Shmi arrived. And buried deep within its memory code, a hidden message. The flickering blue image of Count Dooku materialized, a sinister smile gracing his lips. Thank you, Shmi, Dooku purred, for your cooperation. Your son's future is of great interest to us all. The message cut out, leaving Vos in stunned silence. He transmitted his findings to the Jedi Council immediately. The net was closing, not around a Sith Lord, but around the Chosen One himself, his emotional vulnerabilities expertly weaponized against him. The Jedi Temple, usually a bastion of serenity, felt like a tomb. Anakin was summoned, the air thick with unspoken accusation. As he entered the council chambers, he found himself surrounded by grim, unforgiving faces. Mace Windu's voice, devoid of its usual measured tone, cut through the oppressive silence. "We know about your mother, Anakin. And more importantly, we know about Sereno." Anakin's blood turned to ice. He had known this day might come, but not like this, not intertwined with Dooku, with treason. "What are you talking about?" He demanded, his voice strained. Datka Adi Mundi, with cold, deliberate movements, activated a holo projector. Dooku's chilling message to Shmi played, his voice dripping with false gratitude, his words implicating her, and by extension, Anakin, in a conspiracy with the Separatists. Windu's next words were a hammer blow. "Explain this, Skywalker. Why did you hide your mother? Why is she receiving funds from Sereno? And why is Count Dooku thanking her?" Anakin's fists clenched, his jaw tight with suppressed rage. "It's impossible. My mother has nothing to do with Dooku." But Shakti, her voice laced with sorrow, countered, "The evidence is undeniable, Anakin. We fear you have been influenced by him. That Dooku has been teaching you about the Force, twisting your abilities." The accusations echoed in the chamber, each word a poisoned dart piercing his loyalty, his very identity. They didn't just doubt him. They accused him of treason, of betrayal. His breathing grew ragged, the familiar constriction in his chest tightening with every damning word. "I kept Shmi hidden for personal reasons," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "I had to get her off Tatooine, since the Jedi never did. You left her to rot as a slave." His gaze swept across their unyielding faces, a silent plea for understanding, but there was none. He denied any link between himself, his mother, and Dooku, but his words fell on deaf ears. The council exchanged wary glances, their judgment already rendered. Windu's pronouncement sealed his fate. "We will be detaining Shmi for interrogation to discover the truth. It is not unreasonable to believe she may also be powerful, potentially even a Sith pawn." Anakin stood there, stunned, impotent. His greatest fear, the one he had fought so desperately to prevent, was manifesting before his eyes, twisted and weaponized by the very people he had sworn to serve. A transport was sent to Naboo, dispatched to bring Shmi to Coruscant for interrogation. But before it could arrive, the pre-planned attack unfolded. Separatist forces ambushed the ship, and Shmi was captured, taken. The council, blinded by their own prejudices, interpreted this as Dooku saving his accomplice, further solidifying their twisted narrative. But in truth, it was Palpatine's final, devastating move. Anakin burst into the council chambers, a storm of fury and despair. His mother, the last true anchor to his humanity, was gone, stolen by the very machinations the Jedi, in their blind fear, had facilitated. "You must find her," he roared, his voice raw with anguish. "Let me lead the campaign to find her. She's innocent." But Windu, his face a mask of cold resolve, cut him off. "Impossible, Skywalker. You are not to leave the Jedi Temple under any circumstances, due to ongoing investigations." The words were a brand, searing into his soul. They had allowed this to happen, their fear blinding them to the truth, and now they shackled him, prevented him from saving the one person who mattered most. He knew he wouldn't win with them. The Jedi, once his family, were now his jailers. There was only one other who had always offered him solace, who had understood his burdens and whispered words of encouragement. He went to Palpatine. The Chancellor, ever the master manipulator, played his role to perfection. He sympathized, feigned outrage, and subtly fanned the flames of Anakin's resentment. "The Jedi," Palpatine lamented, his voice a balm to Anakin's wounded soul. "They let this happen. They feared your power, Anakin, and that fear led them to doing something irrational in arresting Shmi. He promised to do everything in his power to find her, sending Anakin home with a false sense of hope that the next day Anakin returned, desperate for news. Palpatine, with a somber expression, delivered the crushing blow. His forces had failed to locate her. But then, a subtle shift, a predatory gleam in his eyes. However, I have another way. A way that will involve you using your power, Anakin. But a power beyond which the Jedi have allowed you to learn. Anakin, desperate and vulnerable, questioned him. The Chancellor's expression darkened, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, like a serpent coiling around its prey. The dark side holds secrets the Jedi fear. One of them is the ability to locate those we seek, no matter how hidden they are. He leaned in, his words a venomous caress. I can teach you this, Anakin, but only if you trust me. The thought of Shmi, her face etched with suffering, overrode every Jedi teaching, every instinct for caution. Show me, Anakin pleaded, his voice barely a whisper. Palpatine's smile was a cruel, knowing thing. The Jedi never told you the full nature of the Force. They sought to limit you because they fear you. But I will show you. Anakin's breath caught as the realization struck him. The Chancellor's presence in the Force surged, no longer concealed, a titanic wave of darkness washing over him. Palpatine was a Sith Lord, but Anakin did not oppose it. He did not recoil. Palpatine, with chilling certainty, simply stated, I am the only one who can help you now. Together we will find your mother. They meditated, not in the serene chambers of the Jedi, but in the oppressive darkness of Palpatine's secret lair. Their minds reached out, not to the light, but to the churning currents of the dark side. Images flashed before them, a jungle world, twisted trees, a forgotten temple. Umbara. Shmi is on Umbara, Palpatine declared, his voice a triumphant whisper. Dooku must have taken her there. Together we will save her. As they boarded Palpatine's private ship, Anakin's trust, perversely, strengthened. This Sith Lord, this figure of shadow, was the only one offering a path, a solution. He was the only one who truly understood his desperation. But even as Anakin buckled into his seat, Palpatine sent a secret command, a chilling message to Dooku. Eliminate Shmi Skywalker. By the time Anakin arrives, it will be too late. The journey to Umbara was a descent into the maw of inevitable tragedy. Anakin, blinded by a desperate hope, by the lure of a power that promised to undo the irreversible, was a puppet on Palpatine's strings. They arrived, two figures cloaked in shadows, breaching the forgotten temple. And what Anakin saw broke him. Count Dooku, standing over Shmi's lifeless body, his crimson blade still humming with recent death. A guttural scream tore from Anakin's throat, a sound of pure, unadulterated agony that echoed through the ancient stones. Palpatine, ever the maestro of manipulation, placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice a low, commanding rumble. We will take him together. Together they ignited their blades, one a vibrant blue, the other a malevolent red, and surged forward. Dooku, caught in the web of Palpatine's treachery, ignited his own, confusion warring with recognition in his eyes. Why was his master attacking him with such lethal intent? The realization dawned on him mid-duel. He was a sacrifice, a pawn in a far grander game. Palpatine was betraying him, orchestrating his death to complete Anakin's descent. The fight wasn't long, not truly a battle of equals. Palpatine didn't just fight. He coached, guided Anakin, his voice a dark symphony in the chaos. Use your anger, Anakin. Let your hatred flow, Avenger. Each word was a psychological weapon, pushing Anakin deeper into the abyss of his rage. The desire for revenge, a primal scream in his soul, fueled his every strike. And then, with a final, desperate lunge, fueled by an anger so profound it twisted the Force around him, Anakin cut down Dooku. He had avenged his mother. He rushed to Shmi, dropping to his knees, his hands trembling as he reached out with the Force, pouring every ounce of his unparalleled healing power into her. He felt for a pulse, for any flicker of life, desperately trying to mend the fatal wounds, to reverse the cold embrace of death. But it was too late. She was gone. The raw, guttural cry that escaped him was not just for his mother, but for the shattered remnants of his soul. This was the moment of no return. The grief, the rage, the betrayal, they converged into a black hole of despair that consumed him entirely. Palpatine, watching from the shadows, saw his masterpiece complete. The chosen one was no more. In his place stood something new, something terrifying. The ability to heal, born of love and compassion, had been twisted into the ultimate weapon of control, a power that, paradoxically, had led him directly to his darkest self. This is the precipice, gentlemen. You have peered into the abyss. Witness the chilling precision of ancient corruption and the insidious nature of institutional manipulation. The truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. You now understand how even the most profound gifts can be perverted, how even the purest intentions can be twisted into instruments of control. Do you feel it? The shift within you? The awakening? To solidify this transformation, to truly grasp the weight of this knowledge and claim your place among those who see, I ask you twice to comment this symbolic phrase below. The veil is lifted.